Yeah.
canvassing.
Oh, how was that?
It was fun.
Now, how old is he?
11.
11. I was gonna say 12.
And, yeah, he was running out to put stuff at the door, and until some woman came out and said, "Oh, you just put on my door."
Oh, great.
And I had to get out of the car
Somebody
and be
that
like,
they
"Oh,
don't
you know,
know,
I'm just
just
fine,
fine.
introduce myself."
7 to 11.
And by the end of it, she was fine, good luck and everything. But you know, the
Oh, I
first
will.
reaction.
Yeah, like, what's this kid running around?
And from that point on, my kid was like, I feel like I just got called out in class. I'm not doing that again.
Dad, it's up to you.
But it was fun. It was nice having him out.
I bet it was a good experience too, right?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Do you?
It's perfect.
I
It's like movies and that.
I heard the whole thing today.
Well, that was my idea.
Was it?
Yeah,
When you told me today.
yeah, yeah, that was my idea.
Next Tuesday, just gonna come back.
Hey.
Hello. All right. He
Good.
lives. He lives.
And breathes. Are you coming to the Historical Society tomorrow night?
Yes, I plan
Heritage
on
Day.
it.
Oh, good.
You talking about Heritage Day?
No.
No, that's Saturday. Tomorrow night is the Lower Saucon Township Historical Society monthly meeting.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna be playing dogs.
I know you are. I can't go. I'm the president, so I
You
can't
can't
go.
go, no.
And pug, beer.
Oh, the CRD thing tomorrow.
I tried to get Kevin to go.
Yeah.
I said, Kevin, you gotta drink like a 6-pack, cause you get $1 a flow or something.
Yeah, I got all these dog treats and
What's that
dog
stuff? 7?
customs. It's at 6.
6 to 8 at Wire
6 to 8.
Walkers.
Where
Yeah, where's Wire
My
Park?
kids
Is
got
Easton?
soccer.
Easton.
Oh.
It's Lime Street. It's right
It's-
close to Easton, where old Press, what that used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Heritage Guns down there, Heritage Gun.
Yeah.
It's right, they're all great.
Right there.
Yeah.
I was contemplating telling Sean he has to go drink for his
I
mother.
was trying to, one of my neighbors let me borrow one of the dogs.
Sean, you have to go drink
The one,
For your mother.
for your mother.
You can throw that in.
he scared the hell out of everybody. He's well trained. He
It's
listens to
freezing. There,
He
she's
takes
turning up.
care of him when he's out there.
True.
Look at all this stuff.
I know.
You look like you're
This is
important.
extra. Oh, here. Hey, she just turned it down.
Congratulations.
For what?
She is an author.
Wrote a book
Published
in
a
her
book.
spare time. Oh, I don't know. How do you
Is
do
it?
that? Good, how are you?
Look who's showing up. Look at the cat dragon.
No crisis, no games, no.
Nice weather and stuff.
No puppies.
I know, she just turned it off, so. Huh? She just turned it off. So you good? Huh? Are you doing well? Hi. How are you? Very crabby today. Well, that's not good. No. Like,
Yeah, that's her.
Looks like
Wingfielder's a packet.
Oh, cool.
Really lucky I found her.
well, you know what we do. Yeah.
I think my stats last year were probably missed 4 total. So.
Okay, no
Well,
more.
we still remembered what you looked like. That's something. We have had people that you.
I've never met before.
Did
yeah.
anybody ever
Yeah.
see that person?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Hey, so.
Hey, Priscilla, how are you?
begin with roll call. Drew Germanowski, I'm here. Vice Chairman Jennifer Helton,
Here.
Secretary Kathy McGovern,
Here.
Laura Ray,
Here.
Alan Johnson, we know is not here. Cheyenne Reeman, no. Chad Heinbecker,
Here.
Janine Barnum,
Here. Author.
Casper Russell Sutton,
Here.
Winfield Clark,
Here.
Kurt Balch, not here.
All right.
Carol Schneider, and Harry Vitchik.
Here.
Here, good. Okay, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have no executive session. Harry, do you have any report for us? No, okay. So, under new business, we're very fortunate to have Paige Strasco here. She's a watershed specialist from the Northampton County Conservation District, and she's going to give us a presentation on municipal stormwater MS4 best practices.
Okay, hello. So like Drew said, my name is Paige Strasco. I'm with Northampton County Conservation District, and I'm here to talk about brief history, background, and regulations for MS4. So MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. Go ahead, next slide, Carol, please. So a municipal separate storm sewer is any conveyance or system that is owned by a municipality or a public entity that discharges to waters of the United States. So like the Lehigh River, Saucon Creek, those are all waters of the United States. They are designed or used to collect or convey stormwater, so stormwater drains, pipes. This could also be rain gardens, bioretention basins, infiltration basins, so anything that collects stormwater. And it's not a combined sewer and is not part of a publicly owned treatment works, so not part of a sanitary sewer treatment plant. Next slide, please. So a little bit of history. There are a couple federal laws and state laws that brought the MS4 program to fruition. One of the major ones is the Clean Water Act from 1972. That's a federal law that helped establish the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is NPDES. You might know these as permits that developers are required to get when they disturb an acre or more of land. There's also the Clean Stream Law for Pennsylvania, as well as Title 25, Chapter 93, and all of these deal with water quality. So MS4 permits are technically under the program of NPDES. They might be referred to as an NPDES permit sometimes. So there are a couple different ways to categorize MS4 permits. They could be large, medium, or small based on different criteria. Usually one of the main criteria is the size of the population in a township. So in Pennsylvania, there are 2 large MS4s and 953 small MS4s. And it doesn't have to only be townships. It could be the county. PennDOT has an MS4 permit. It could be an airport, a university. They can all qualify under the MS4 regulations. I believe you would be a small MS4, yes. So in line with the county having an MS4 permit, there's also a stormwater plan that's called Act 167 that you may have heard of. So there's a couple differences I wanted to highlight between the two. The MS4 permit is a program that is required on a local level, and it's a specific criteria for that permittee or municipality. There's also a specified timeline to comply with those regulations in the permit. And the major difference here is that through MS4, a municipality can receive fines from DEP. For Act 167, this is a stormwater management plan that's on a county level, and it's based on watersheds within that county. And the Act 167 guides projects and programs also at the local level, but it's more of a larger snapshot of the entire county versus a specific area. And with Act 167, there are no fines for an unadopted plan. So this is a visual that's available on DEP's website. The green shows approved Act 167 plans. The red is no plan at all, and then there are other denominations for in progress. So currently Northampton and Lehigh counties have Act 167 plans that are in the progress of being updated. So for MS4 permits, like I said, they're for a specific amount of time. It's generally 5 years with a renewal application or notice of intent. And ultimately, the permit is for stormwater discharge from municipal outfalls. So you might be thinking, what is an outfall? So those photos show a couple different examples of what an outfall is. You can go to the next slide, Carol. These are a few more examples. An outfall is where the storm sewer pipe ends and it drains into a body of water, like a creek or a stream or a river. And the goal of the MS4 permits are to reduce the quantity of pollutants that stormwater carries from the systems into our bodies of water. So there are some common stormwater pollutants, could be vehicle fluids. I'm sure we've all seen that photo on the left of trash clogging an inlet grate. All of those are carried directly to our streams when they're not dealt with properly. And some other examples, people don't pick up, if they don't pick up their pet waste, some residents might not realize if you fertilize your lawn at the wrong time and the rain comes, the rain can wash those fertilizers and pesticides into the drains, and then they end up in our creeks and rivers as well. There's also erosion control failures, or if there's more development, increased runoff from impervious surfaces could bring more road salt and again have more opportunities for vehicle fluids to get washed into storm drains. So with the MS4 permit, there are 6 minimum control measures, or MCMs. Some of them go hand in hand and some of them are standalone. So public education and outreach and public involvement and participation are very similar to each other. There's also the illicit discharge detection and elimination MCM, as well as construction site runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, and pollution prevention or good housekeeping. So for MCM1, public education, MS4 permittees are required to develop and implement a written plan. That's usually the case with all of the MCMs, but for this one specifically, you have to have at least one educational item published every year. So that could be in the township's newsletter, on the website, at community events like Heritage Day that's coming up. And that is one of the requirements, that you have to distribute those materials to your target audience groups. For MCM2, you have to get public participation and involvement, so you have to give residents an opportunity to comment and provide feedback on different plans, such as standard operating procedures or pollutant reduction plans, or any new ordinances pertaining to stormwater that are adopted. And you have to regularly give them that opportunity to participate. So one of the things I mentioned was a pollutant reduction plan. So these plans are required for discharges to impaired waters. It could be impaired due to nutrients like nitrogen or phosphorus, but usually the case is it's impaired by sediment. Sediment is actually the #1 pollutant in Pennsylvania by volume, so that's kind of the main focus of the current MS4 permit cycle. And, oh, sorry, go back one more. So the plan, they have to determine a baseline of the pollutants that are causing concern. And then the plan also identifies best management practices to achieve a minimum 5% reduction in phosphorus and 10% in sediment. So, and then the big caveat here is that whatever that pollutant reduction plan says has to be implemented by the end of the 5-year permit term. So then moving on to MCM3, this is developing a plan. Municipalities have to have a map of all of the outfalls and the storm sewer system itself, so that if there is an illicit discharge, that can be easily found and dealt with. And an illicit discharge is described as anything other than stormwater that enters a drain. So that could even be grass, it could be soap, kitchen waste. All of those things would be considered an illicit discharge. So part of making sure that there aren't any illicit discharges is that the MS4 permittees have to conduct outfall screenings annually. Usually a percentage of the outfalls need to be looked at. And you're not only looking for illicit discharges, you're also looking to see if there's any maintenance needs, anything that could be updated to make sure that the system is working the way that it should be. So this is just one example or snapshot of what a map might look like that's required for MCM3. You can see those red stop sign looking symbols are where the outfalls are, and then the pink and the red lines show where the storm sewer pipes are under the road. Then for, well, yeah, this is just a little bit more information about the screening for outfalls or the inspections. And then some common illicit discharges. There's sanitary wastewater, car wash runoff. In some cases, there might be laundry water or concrete truck washouts if they're not taken care of properly. And then, like I mentioned before, automotive fluids. If someone's dumping oil down a drain, we don't want that. And then kitchen waste as well. So some of the methods that a township might use to stop illicit discharges would be to have a stormwater ordinance. So this would prohibit illicit discharges, require controls for sediment and erosion, require that developments and builders have some sort of plan for stormwater management controls. It would give township officials the right to enter and inspect a basin or an outfall if it's on private property. It would also give penalties for non-compliance. So if someone is found dumping oil down a drain, there would be some sort of fine or sanction against that. And then since 2022, DEP actually has a model ordinance that the MS4 permittees are required to adopt. So again, by that 5-year permit cycle, the townships should have adopted the model ordinance from DEP, but they are allowed to make certain changes and updates to it as well. Then for MCM4, construction site runoff, typically in my experience, municipalities have a memorandum of understanding with the conservation districts because the conservation district is in charge of keeping track of sediment and erosion controls on active construction sites. So whenever there is a violation in terms of erosion controls, the conservation district technicians will alert the township officials, and the township can take enforcement action from there through their ordinances. So these are some examples of what erosion controls look like on on construction sites. There's silt fence, silt sock, riprap, and matting. Then, of course, stormwater doesn't stop after construction stops. So there's post-construction controls. And this basically outlines that there has to be an operation and maintenance plan in place, and someone has to be responsible for it, whether it's the township, it might be an HOA, it might be a private landowner, but someone has to be responsible for making sure that whatever stormwater BMP was installed continues to function properly. So these are some examples. The photo on the left is a rain garden that looks to be pretty well maintained. All of the plants are growing, and as long as the water filters out in a reasonable amount of time and it's not a pond, then it would be great. But obviously the photo on the right, that water quality inlet needs a little bit of maintenance, needs to be cleaned out and taken care of. So for publicly owned BMPs, say the township owns a basin, there would be an outline of inspection and maintenance requirements with the permit, or typically with the engineering plans from when that was built. Same thing for a privately owned BMP, but the township would need to have communication with that private owner and develop a process to make sure that everything is being maintained and the BMP is functioning properly. And then the last MCM is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. So this is more of the township taking a look at what its own facilities are, making sure that they document all of the municipal activities and places that could have the potential for generating runoff or polluted runoff specifically to the storm sewer system. And again, part of that, go back. Again, part of that is making sure there's a written plan in place. But one of the main things with this is to make sure the MCM6 plan is in each of the facilities for the township. So if there's a public works garage, there needs to be one there, as well as one in the township building and the police department, just to make sure that if anything happens, everyone knows what the proper procedure would be. So all of these things that we just talked about are required to be reported to DEP on an annual basis. Not necessarily everything in detail has to be provided to them. They just want a snapshot of what the activities were during the year and how those requirements were met. And making sure the township keeps that documentation on hand in case there are any questions is paramount. And every year that also gives the opportunity to update any written program plans or target audiences that the township might want to make sure they are communicating with in the future. And then typically the issues that townships run into, or any MS4 permittee, is that you need some sort of funding. You need to pay someone to go out and inspect these, to answer complaints, and to keep up with all of the education and outreach requirements. So some options may be sharing resources with neighboring municipalities, partnering with local nonprofits, also partnering with groups like this, the EAC, or maybe the Shade Tree Commission at public outreach events. You can give stormwater information to your residents and talk about it to educate them. You can also work with your local watershed groups. If they do regular water testing, you could use that with your annual reports to DEP. And then some municipalities have taken the route of forming a stormwater authority and creating a stormwater fee. And then just as an update, DEP is changing some of the permitting requirements. I believe this year there will be a new permit package. So some of those specific pollutant reduction plan requirements will be changed, and the way credits for those reductions are going to change. And I don't have all of the details yet, but I know that this has been in process for about 3 years now. Typically, they are more restrictive, but I'm not sure how that's going to change. From what I've heard, I believe there's going to be less credit given to like a stream restoration for sediment reduction, things of that nature, but I'm not sure if the requirements will be more restrictive or not. Yeah, you're welcome. And then, yep, that's the end of my presentation. So any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. Yes.
Hey, I have a question. So,
Mhm.
looking at your map of the counties of Pennsylvania and the various status,
Mhm.
many of them were green, which indicated that they, I think I'm correct on green being the symbol for plans that had been approved over 5 years ago.
Yes.
And then, of course, Northampton is in a crosshatch zone,
Mhm.
which means that, that ours, is being reviewed and updated.
Correct.
So does that mean that if it weren't being updated, that we would have been in the 5-year plus plan in green, that we did have one that was approved over 5 years ago and now we're updating?
Yes, that's correct. So the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is currently having workshops and working with the municipalities in the 2 counties to get updated information because I believe majority of the plans haven't been updated since the early 90s. So now with all of the development and obviously new stormwater controls and new methods of filtering runoff, they want to update those plans and try to get a better snapshot of how much land is left to develop and update those regulations.
So assuming then that the plan that's being worked on is approved at some point, then will we hear, as a smaller MS4, will we hear from them what we will have to do at the township level to comply, or do we have to reach out to them to determine that?
I believe once the plan is updated and approved, there should be some sort of notification, possibly from the county, since it's a county level plan, that the requirements for, and that's specifically Act 167, so that's more of a generalized stormwater plan. There's not really as strict requirements for that as there are for the MS4 permits. So the Act 167 would more affect the members of your planning commission for when they're reviewing development plans that come before them, before they go to the, is it Board of Supervisors here? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, road salt.
Road salt. Can you talk about road salt and how that impacts some of your decisions?
Sure, so.
Hardware out there.
Right, so yes, for metal pipes, I do believe road salt can be rather corrosive over time. That is actually, there's a statewide action group right now that's looking at road salt and testing for it to understand what the impacts are, what the levels of road salt are in our streams and waterways. So that's just one of, but unfortunately, because it's necessary for safety and other means, it's one of the less regulated areas, but it is technically a pollutant since it's not stormwater, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question is, does anything in any of these MCMs talk about potentially reducing road salt or switching to a brining method where you can use a concentrated solution instead of rock salt?
I believe the only MCM that might touch on that would be number 6 for the municipal, like good housekeeping, because part of good housekeeping would be checking your road salt equipment, making sure that it's distributing road salt at the proper calibration, and making sure you're not over salting. But again, that's one of the things that the state requires and sets those amounts. And from what I understand, municipalities are meant to buy salt in bulk, so every year. So if they don't use it, it's kind of like a use it or lose it. And some people get very finicky about how much they put down or how much they use.
And having that salt covered correctly, that's also part of this pollution prevention, good housekeeping section?
Yes.
Right, in the facility now?
Yes, yeah, making sure that it has, that it's in a storage facility so that when it rains, the salt isn't dissolving and running off with the storm water.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. You had a question?
Nice presentation. You talked about testing of water and municipalities that have active plans. When you look back on that over time, has the quality of the water gotten better? From you talk about a baseline to a fully implemented plan, have those municipalities found that their plans are successful and the quality of the water is better than it was previously?
I think in most cases, if they are testing over that period of time, it usually improves. I mean, like I mentioned before, that's kind of the goal of the MS4 permit. So theoretically, if you're paying attention to what's on the roadways, making sure that you're doing all of the things for the permit, the water quality over time should improve, yes. Yeah.
Anybody else have questions?
Do you really check water quality of the streams and the rivers when you're doing those I forget what it was called.
Outfalls, yeah.
Outfalls.
So the MS4 permit doesn't require that you check the water quality. It's more checking to make sure that there isn't like a sheen or any indication that there's something other than stormwater. But if there is a local watershed group that regularly tests, you can use that to kind of track if there is an impact or a difference over time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What can members of the community do? Is there a hotline? Is there something for people to get involved? The website, something like that? Right,
yes. So again, your township should have some sort of information either on the website or in the newsletter. DEP has some really great resources. And I would say in terms of getting involved, if there are any projects going on and you're concerned about stormwater or polluted runoff, that would be the time to either contact your township or DEP, because part of that permit process is to give residents a chance to give their feedback.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then that handout that I brought on the bottom, there is a link to a stormwater management guide that DEP put together. So it goes through all of the MCMs in more detail and gives you other resources as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know of any grants that are available for roadside treatments, maybe for catchment basins that are bioremediation, rain garden types that would attach into the flow from your runoff there?
Sure, yeah, there are quite a few different grant programs. There are some specifically that are for, I think it's through like the H2O ARPA, ARPA program.
Okay.
They are typically for like the actual conveyance or like updating, maintaining pipes. There are also options of getting like a low interest loan through Penvest for certain projects like that you mentioned. So there's a couple different options that you guys could look at.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
I was gonna say, these are great questions.
Yeah.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So
Are we gonna get a copy of this?
I can email a copy over, yeah.
Please, thank
That
you.
would be wonderful.
Yeah, of course. And then my contact information is at the end in the presentation, so when you guys receive that, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'd be more than happy to help you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Any further discussion on the subject among EAC members?
Are we in compliance?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So it's a township engineer question. I would imagine we should be.
And also, we participated, oh no, it was Saucon Watershed, wasn't it, last year? She was talking about educational programs for the
Yes.
public, but it wasn't the EAC, now that I think about it.
But
It was,
remember this partner.
right,
So-
right. We should probably do that again this summer.
Yeah.
The Cooks Creek thing is what I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
the Saucon Creek watershed thing.
Yep.
When we did that, yeah.
Awesome.
That raises Chad just raised an important question. Should we be reaching out to the township engineers for a report on where we stand?
Yeah,
I
I
think
think so.
that's reasonable.
It would probably be, when she mentioned the annual report that's required, that would probably be interesting to see what's in it, if it's not like 1,000 pages long.
Yeah, what's the timing of those? Is there a standard
I was
timing?
just about to say, I forgot to mention,
So the annual reporting period is from July 1st to June 30th. And then the reports are due on September 30th.
You wanna go back there?
So we're coming up to the end of
sure?
the reporting period. So if there's any outstanding applications, waivers, or part of MCA 6, as well as doing employee training for township officials. So if anything like that needs to be done, now would be the time to get that started.
So that raises an important question of the timing of any request that we would make. If we wait until September 30th, we're just going to learn what's happened, or does it make better sense to inform the township engineers that we would like to see the report and maybe request a preliminary report in the meantime that would contribute to the final report, the annual report. Laura Ray, what are your thoughts on that? Because of the, again, I don't think as EAC we can require the engineers to do anything.
No, but I think we should ask to see the report, I would think. Maybe if we see the one from last year, give us an idea of what the heck it all has in there. What do they consider, what did we do that covered educational outreach? It might just be the website listing, or I don't know if anything was in the newsletter in the past year. It'd be interesting to see.
Right. So Carol, if we were to request a report from the township engineers to the request last year's report, do we need to make a motion to make that request, or can we simply make that request?
I think that the liaison would relay that, and
I mean, it might even be on a website somewhere, buried in there.
I was gonna ask if that's public record or not. Does it go back, is it public? Would it be listed somewhere, like a catalog of them? I don't know, something to look up.
Yeah, it could be out, on a state website too as well. I don't know.
Paige, do you know?
Ask.
Is there an online repository where these reports are publicly accessible?
So I've seen where you can look up through DEP whether someone has a permit or not. Theoretically, the township should, like, if you are asking to see the annual report, it is public record, so they should be able to provide that. But in terms of like looking it up online, I've only seen where you can see the permit status, like if it's an active permit or an inactive permit, and what the numbers, like the tracking number for that would be.
Is there like a checklist available, maybe, that it would be all of these best management practices broken down into an itemized list that you could kind of refer against?
I believe there is, yes. I think DEP, yeah.
Right?
I think DEP
It
might
might be
have
on
one
this-
if it's not in that, yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Sure.
this is our sheet on it, right? So I wonder, does
This is
this
from last month.
capture all 6 of these big points on here, or is this just for residents?
Yeah, that was just for residents, and we had assembled that probably, I'm guessing, at least 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And do we have something that's like this that's posted in all the facilities as well?
I'm not
within-
sure
In
if
Public
that-
Works?
I mean, we put that together and distributed it, and the more I think about it, it may be pre-COVID.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
It's been a while, and I'm trying to think of when certain members of this committee moved away, to try to get myself grounded in the timing of that.
Can I make a comment? Can you hear me, Joel?
Yes.
I just did a search for MS4 on our website, and it does have a page with lots of stuff on it. And at one point, it says MS4 updates, documents, 2021-2022 MS4 annual status report. And that's the most recent one. So, but it is on the website.
But that was from 2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the last one there.
Should be a
Yeah, an interesting question, because
Four.
that falls in the middle of a year.
Right,
It's interesting to know what that date really means.
right.
You know, 2022 might be the starting point of that year's report.
Well, it says 2021-2022, so
Okay, so that would be that
you
ending
would
on
think
that
the,
year,
right.
June 30th, 2022. Okay,
Yeah,
But I'm not positive.
sounds old.
Huh?
Sounds old.
It's old either way.
yeah.
But we do have stuff on there, so.
Well, as a starting point, I mean, one thing we can do perhaps is to request that Township Council request of township engineers to release or provide them with the most recent report that we could put on the township website, and that would make it available to us as well.
And it's only 577, not 1,000, so
Oh.
I think
Yeah, okay, I thought it might be something like that.
I'll start reading now.
War and Peace.
Oh, yeah.
On the PDF.
So Laura, as liaison, do we simply have to request from you to,
Yeah, I'll see if we can.
okay, get the most
and
recent
Barry a
report?
newer one.
I mean, if the report has been made and delivered,
I would
then it should be there, and it should be a
think
very
it should have been.
simple process. It's just a matter of, it's easy to understand how something might get reported as appropriate, but not be added to the township
I mean,
website.
it might be in our next cloud somewhere.
Okay. Any further discussion? I mean, that's a starting point, then we can see where we are and go from there. Okay. So that brings us to the next item on our agenda, House Bill 934 and 935. So we did distribute with a call to the meeting those two bills. And then I also distributed that memorandum from Representative Timothy Bonner, who in that memo had indicated that he intended to reintroduce that legislation. But I was unable to find what the status is of that. That was December of 2024. And so I'm not sure what the outcomes are. And frankly, I don't recall who brought this particular item up at our last meeting. I was unaware of these, so I'm not sure if any members of the EAC have more information. They are bills to be considered as we seen them on our call to meeting, but the status of which I don't know. And certainly, until they come up and get put into law, we can't use them to
I checked
our
this,
advantage.
I checked the status, it's still in committee.
Still in committee. Okay, well, one step forward for our committee is we're now aware of them, and it's something I think that we should keep our eyes on. But I don't think that we can take any action at this stage of the game. Like always, though, it's good that we're learning about some of these some of these bills and what the implications are. They would have huge implications, and what will be important, I think, eventually is if these bills pass and become law, it's an interesting question that how they would apply to an existing landfill. And my suspicion is they probably wouldn't, if they're permitted, be able to retroactively influence things, but they certainly, one would think they certainly could affect any what's the word I'm looking for, any permit submitted for expansion. So I think it's something we should keep our eyes on, so that we're aware of what the status would be.
The one thing you can consider, I don't know about this particular one, but in the past, it was introduced by Bonner and Haddock. But when you go into the Pennsylvania Assembly, you can look up House Bill number 934, and then you look up Boscola and Freeman and Malone McKenzie, I think. They are all our county representatives. And if they are sponsoring this bill or any bill for that matter, then you write a letter that you want to, promote this particular bill.
Yeah. Do we know who's on the Environmental and Natural Resources Protection Committee?
Yeah, you'd have to look it
So we
up.
have to look that up.
But then they'll have all in the state, all the people that support that bill. It doesn't matter what the bill is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Goes on and on.
So the point of these is to restrict the expansion of the landfill, I would think, right? Like I'm just reading, I read to the end,
something
both of them
about-
within 1,000 feet. And
Yeah.
25 within 3 miles.
So many.
You've read about this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain, I don't know if you could explain.
It basically, it's by population.
Okay.
It can't be closer than so many miles for 1,000 population.
Yeah, that's what it said, that within the population desk, the 935 one. That it may not be within 3 miles of the border of a municipality having a population density of at least 1,000 residents per
That's
1
the
square
second
mile.
one.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's referring to us in this area.
Right.
then. Okay,
Correct.
that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to the review of the Rosen Grant Land Development proposal, which we saw the plans, the electronic form of the plans. The prints themselves are available here for us. I don't know if anybody wants to look at these more carefully, how much anybody may have looked at them online. As you know, I think we all experience a problem. I have a monster screen, and I still have difficulty scrolling up to see these. Basically, it's to put a repair shop in a place where there's basically an abandoned building, it sounds like, and a 1-acre lot. This is on 378, actually quite close to where we are right now. As I tried to review these plans, I think they're in compliance with regulations, and so with that, open it up for any concerns anybody had. The location map, we actually have a copy of that passed around, and then basically these are standard development plans from the engineers that address typically the regulations and compliance with ordinances, et cetera. So I personally, go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, I personally didn't see anything that was an alarm, that set off alarms for me. So Kathy?
Laura, Tyler Freed is our contracted zoning officer, correct?
Who?
Tyler Freed?
Tyler Mitch?
No,
Tyler
Tyler
Mitch.
Mitch is the township zoning officer.
So Tyler Freed's is a what, project engineer?
Yeah, he's.
Yes.
So, my point was gonna be that it doesn't specify anything from an environmental standpoint. Like if it's in compliance or it's not in compliance, like, I don't know that we would know something like that.
Well, this is what they're asking for waivers from.
Right,
So
right,
this is the
right.
developer from
Right.
Moose End Hearing.
Right, I've read them. I mean, it sounds like, when you read it, it says it's going into an already existing, pipe under the road.
Right. So this is like right near the gas station that's out there, it's like up,
Is it that
up
house?
the hill from it? I wanted to drive by, but I can't picture in my mind a house
It's that
there.
stone house that's right next to the gas station, the stone house, and the shopping center.
Is it the stone house?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So, I mean, I didn't see anything in particular glaring about this project either.
I think normally when we look at plans of this sort and we don't have items of specific concern from the environmental standpoint, that we basically report that we have no concerns or no comment.
Yeah.
No comment is probably a more sensible approach.
Yeah, again, a waiver is requested to offer stormwater outlet pipe and structures to be within 100 feet of the road right away. I don't know what the current standard is. Why is that a waiver? Is it too big? Is it too small? That's.
Well, it's 100 feet from the right of way of the road. And
Which
if this is a
is-
house that sits back, I would think they would have the ability not to ask that waiver and put in the correct piping, but,
Yeah, I would agree.
yeah.
It says it would discharge
Cutting corners
to
of
an
some kind?
existing pipe under the road.
Yeah,
Right.
but this is not just a residential facility. This is gonna be a repair shop where they have oil and grease and other
Bless you.
substances that can get accumulated on the ground and then end up going into an existing drainage structure that's going right down to the Black River.
Or it ends up on the road.
It'll be washed off into the storm sewer.
We don't have our engineer.
It's almost like we just talked about this.
Yeah, almost like we just talked
Yep.
about.
Right?
MS4. is what we're-
Yes.
okay, just making sure.
So it's right here. See the MP?
Stormwater.
Yeah, the BMP.
Does that double line the tube, the pipe in the front?
I guess this didn't
Is that
go
what
through
this
Brian
is?
I
yet.
don't know.
I said, I guess this didn't go through Brian yet, because we don't have like a Hanover.
Looks like the collection,
That would be helpful.
that looks like the collection point.
That's the inlet, yeah, proposed inlet.
Maybe at this point, we wait for Brian's summary.
Yeah,
So
'cause-
that,
You know, depending on the timing of when, I mean, this is dated April 21st. Like our engineer would review this and make his comments as well.
Right.
So
So
we
we
don't
could-
happen to have that in our packet here, so maybe he didn't get done with it, yeah.
That's kind of what I was alluding to, like,
So we could do something like request that our engineer, when reviewing the plans in particular, takes consideration of the possible for petrochemical runoff into the storm discharge collection unit. And in fact, we can refer that to within the constraints of MS4 guidelines. I don't know what else we could do in particular. Is that
I think that's
capture
the
what people's
question at
concerns
hand.
are?
That's the question at hand, so.
Could we recommend that this waiver not be granted?
Well, I would recommend that the engineer evaluate the
Yeah.
request
Yeah.
Good, that's
and
a-
whether, I mean, with the consideration that we're concerned that petrochemicals could be discharged in the stormwater collection and outlet. And we want to make sure that some measures are taken to make sure that doesn't happen. Because what it comes down to, and this is where I think the engineers have to look into, is what the practice of this operation will be. If they're working in the garage and there's floor drains that are discharged appropriately, that's a different matter than if they're working in in the lot and
Well, they could be storing vehicles there.
with the consideration that vehicles could be leaking or things can be spilled while they're working on the vehicles.
Yeah. So I would think this is one that should need to have additional oversight as far as that goes from an environmental perspective.
If you give me a minute to think this through, I think I could draft something and see what the council thinks.
Information, that's the problem.
this just needs to.
It doesn't help.
details like that on one of the pages.
It doesn't. Did you look through it?
No, they're too small to look at online. You can't read them.
Do you know any of these guys?
He's on the,
Oh my gosh, why did it do that? Sorry.
he's the chair of the environmental.
Right.
Environmental Committee.
I can't see his
Can't
name.
even see that. Oh, wait a minute. Quote unquote, put a rain garden.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, well, that's cute.
Yeah.
Unless it already has it from the house, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Correct, you're correct.
So it doesn't talk about other water drainage.
I don't know what district we are off the top of my head.
Vegetation, storm sewer.
And District 5, I know that.
Memorized.
Yeah,
I think we just
All right.
ask the engineer to make sure this is an appropriate waiver, if they,
sorry.
so maybe just ask the engineer to make sure this is an appropriate waiver, given the type of chemicals and. That
And
could
why
be
the waiver's
discharged.
necessary? I mean, is it because?
Just about everybody needs waivers on everything. It's a fact of life.
Why do we have the rules in the first place then?
Well. You will learn.
I don't know if,
Especially if it's.
apparently I
we have
can't come up
existing-
with a
we have existing
more
stuff.
concise, succinct way of saying this. So this may be, if this goes forward, this may be our longest motion ever, but let me run this by you and see what we think we can do to clean this up or go forward with it.
Take a deep breath,
I'm sorry?
take a deep breath.
Yes. EAC recommends the township engineer review the plans for the stormwater collection system with attention to the collection handling, with particular attention to the collection handling of stormwater from the site to make sure that petrochemicals and automobile-related contaminants are not commingled with stormwater runoff that would be released to a stormwater outfall, and make sure that water quality concerns are in compliance with MS4 guidelines. Is that,
Love it.
does that capture what
That captured it.
your concerns are?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So Carol, I don't imagine you've copied that, so let me draft this in, if this motion passes, and then send you a copy of that electronically, okay? All in favor of that motion?
The second.
Aye, well, yeah, hand count. So second, we need a second first.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that looks unanimous. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Carol, I'll get that to you tomorrow, certainly. In fact, what I will do is I'll send a copy to the Environmental Advisory Council first. And then that way, if I articulate something a little bit differently, we will all review that to, in essence, to determine if it's consistent with our vote, okay? Okay. We gotta get back on track here. So that brings us to updates and reports. First one is the EAC Adopt the Road scheduled for May 31st, 2025. That brings us to you, Kathy. You're chairing that particular activity.
Carol, did we talk about pickup and drop-off dates for that?
Yep.
I thought so. Yeah, that's done. It's done, and we'll meet at 8:30?
8:30?
8:30 is fine.
8:30?
Okay.
What is it, Reading Drive?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's Reading Drive, that's the EAC Adopt a Road portion, so that's already all done. Thank you.
And what's
Okay.
May 31st, it's a Saturday.
Okay, B, now we have a little bit of a follow-up on MS4, follow-up. And so this was an ongoing question of educational ideas for residents. So one possibility is to review the document that we had already prepared and see how consistent that is with MS4 guidelines after what we learned today, and whether there are opportunities to amend that document. I think that's a simple step forward to have that redistributed, put on the website and redistributed with the township newsletter in the next cycle. Carol, when is that? I mean, the last time we brought this up, you said it just went out, and then I've received it in my mailbox 2 days later. When would our next township newsletter be scheduled roughly?
It might be at the end of summer.
Okay.
Beginning of fall at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for a point of information there. And we did update the rain barrel information on the township websites, I think. Is that true?
Penn State, I think they ran out of,
Rain barrels.
yeah,
did
because they took it down.
Yeah.
She brought it to my attention and
Yeah, I
it's
saw it.
gone, so
It's gone.
I
Okay.
think they used up their quota.
They're not available, yeah.
Right,
Well, they were just doing another event at the seed farm
yep.
this past weekend.
Yeah,
So,
I did it.
yeah.
I can teach it now.
Yeah, nice.
And in particular, we can check, you have the document in front of you. Chad, does it mention rain barrels as I don't remember.
It shows a picture of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
But I feel like this could obviously be expanded with a lot of the new technologies
Certainly.
that are out there. And an updated image with the rain diverter that
Right,
they
so
recommend as well too, the
If you would
hardware.
take a careful read of that and take note of things that, opportunities for additional items that can be included to that document, and we can do that. And I think we have a little bit of time to work with, given that the next newsletter probably isn't going out for several months, but we should make this a point of action.
And last month we talked that the website is kind of up in the air as well. So we have a little bit of time till when we would
Right.
be able to distribute this material
Okay.
digitally anyways.
Right,
So,
it should be updated. There's no question that there's missed opportunities there. So we'll have to work on that.
So this, it almost feels like, I guess, I should ask this question. There's a stormwater management overview, kind of what we had today, where it breaks down all of these top level ideas. Then you have what you would provide to the residences
Right.
for their own homes, which maybe are two different documents. And
Right.
then you break it down even further and you have rain barrels and rain gardens. And I don't know if each one of those deserves its
So
own.
one of those things then comes
Or-
down to, I mean, we should focus this document, as we did, on what residents can do. Complying with MS4 is gonna be something that happens at the township level, as far as outflows and that sort of thing.
Right.
Our residents really don't have any opportunity to do anything with that, other than we could add a section that points out that perhaps they can report observationally considerations, because whatever's going on in your neighborhood or your backyard, you might witness and be aware of it, and no one else would be. So to give people the agency to bring concerns to township's attention is certainly, would be a step in the right direction, because people notice things, and unless they had their own inherent consideration or concerns, would be unlikely, I think, to bring it to anyone's attention. But within the framework of MS4 requirements, significant soil erosion, discharge from outfalls, or anything with, say, evidence of a petroleum sheen or something like that, or straight out trash into the storm sewers, someone can notice that, and now, as a result of something they would see in that pamphlet, realize that they can report it, and to who they should report it. So I think that's something that we can include from MS4 into the homeowner, township resident realm.
Well, yeah, I would agree. You know, if you go back to where there was pollution prevention and housekeeping, if I can go down through that MCM6, there might be bullet points that would be applicable for
Right.
someone who has agricultural livestock, things like that. There are best management practices that fall under this then as well. So I don't know if it's maybe one sheet is more of a summary of just what stormwater management best practices is, and then here's a remediation method of rain barrels. Here's rain gardens. Here are your BMPs for your.
That might be a
Your
follow-up where a separate, I mean, in this document, we explain to people that there are such things as home rain barrel use and so forth, and then maybe have a more complete document that describes to people what's available and how they might go about getting a rain barrel or building a rain barrel. And over the years, there have been presentations, I mean, Penn State has done it a lot. Perhaps even the Conservation District might have workshops or presentations scheduled occasionally that there we might, as a point of information, you know, in this document that exists, we might basically make people aware of these options and then tell them where to follow up to get more information to follow through on something, whether it be where they can be further educated from websites or where there's programming scheduled to give people information and maybe even, again, access to rain barrel kits and so forth.
This almost sounds like a subcommittee type project.
For someone to dig into it.
Right.
For a couple of us to put this document together and to make sure we're hitting all the points would probably take a handful of people, a few.
Right. I mean, what happened for that document is we had a township resident who was at the time an environmental science graduate student at Lehigh. And she developed that document that then, through our conversations, we added information, but it was basically a subcommittee of one who she ran things back to me for input and then to the committee for input and produced that document. So in essence, it was a subcommittee with one person, as often is the case, not just taking the lead, but doing the majority of the work and doing the typesetting and so forth.
My neighbor, Professor Bilal, he has the rain barrel, but he has a bunch of them connected to it, and he maintains that to cover all his gardens. He has it with timers and everything, and it waters his entire gardens. And it's really efficient, but it's complicated.
Yeah.
But it's really, that's like the next level,
Of-
that what you can actually do with it if you really want to.
Right.
Like, I'm planning on doing that too, because I want to put gardens in my back and use the water for that, divert it, and put it to water my.
So since you're sort of already digging into that, perhaps you could look into where the plans are for that sort of thing.
Right.
To just pull together that we can include in say, a follow-up document to this one. And as far as this particular document goes, Chad, do you want to
Yeah, I can.
I'll
take the lead on
take
it.
charge of that? Yeah.
And
And your
have
computer
a-
skills would be such to create a document of that sort as well.
I don't know if we have access to the original unless I have to start over, but
Yeah.
we might want new images here anyways. I think this impervious runoff infiltration detail is important, but it is kind of hard to read. So this might have to go on multiple pages. And I would like to include a newer picture of the rain barrel plus the rain garden ideas as well.
I think this is a lot of
So-
info, tiny print,
Yeah, it's
and
right.
a residential is gonna be overwhelmed, so if you can
So
make
just,
it
I don't
more.
want to talk about what native plants you're supposed to pick or how big the barrel is supposed to be. I just want to talk about that these options exist, right? These are
Right,
methods to
right.
deal with them. So it's a real top level, 30-minute,
Yeah,
Right.
links that can
Mini session.
send them
Right,
over to
right.
Penn State.
At least this one,
Oh, but with the idea then that this just refers to these possibilities,
yes.
but then we have another document that we could build perhaps that
Correct.
gives the details on the design, where there may be resources available,
Yes,
all of that. So then this is a overview kind of thing, and then refer to another document that we'll have to build that provides details, or even to websites. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Plans and so forth have already been developed, and so we can create a document that pushes people in those directions.
absolutely.
Okay.
And further on this, then the rain garden side of things, I have been in contact with Penn State, Andy Yanka,
Okay.
who does a number of them, but he's not local, and he's trying to hook me up with someone who can come here and do a presentation on that.
Okay.
So hopefully those all fall into our educational and outreach requirements for our MS4 as well, I would hope.
You still have to meet the criteria according to her, the
Right.
public education and outreach and public involvement and participation. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what she said, so I think there's a lot of opportunities with this brainstorming to meet the first two criteria as well. That'll be coming this summer, I would assume. She did throw out Heritage Day, but I wasn't
Yeah.
quite sure how Heritage Day fit in with
Because
stormwater.
Lower Saucon is gonna be there,
Saucon
and so
Creek
she
watershed,
knows that, yeah, the
right?
watershed.
yeah.
And so
Oh, you. Oh.
That's where that came from, I was like,
I'm sitting here making candies.
Ooh,
but
wait, you
I
got
have a fun
candies?
little game for kitties.
Okay. All right, then,
I'll work on this.
okay.
Do you want
with
some
what-
help?
Yes,
or-
I would love some help.
I'll check
And
my
if we-
computer to see if the original is
If-
still there.
if
That
there-
would be easy to start as a skeleton framework
Can
to,
we propose 2 or 3 people who'd be willing to work together on a subcommittee for this?
I would be willing to work with that, yeah.
I would too.
To draft a new stormwater management educational
Right.
awareness
Right.
resource.
Where I can, yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. I don't know if there is a new plastic bag update. We just went through that last month and Chad was gonna visit more places. I know you've been busy. So I'm just simply asking, is there a relevant update, Laura Ray, or,
I wouldn't say real relevant, I'm just trying to put together maybe 2 types of documents of information. One would be, just an overview of why doing it is a good idea, and the other one focuses on the feedback you can give to people that are gonna be resistant for various reasons, so.
okay.
I did wanna talk about it at the last council meeting, but it was way too late, so I didn't put it under, I skipped my reports.
Okay.
It's only 2:30 in the morning.
I know.
Okay, so this is continuing to evolve, so I think we're okay there. And then Chad has been working with developing a stronger cooperative communication effort with the Lehigh Valley EAC, so I don't know if you want to report anything further on that, Chad?
I hope everybody got the email that I sent out.
Yeah.
Everybody got that? Okay, so the update for the public is that we've created a new Lehigh Valley EAC network account and are in the process of testing the platform for storing materials and sharing events. And I've gotten a little bit of feedback from some of the users already.
Yeah.
So that's
Don't
in
you have a
process.
scheduled meeting, or did I read that?
We had an online meeting last month in April, virtual conference, and then there's going to be that summer social
Yeah,
Right.
that is coming up. I'll say it again, let me look. June 11th at 6:30 at the Bethlehem Township Community Center. And so we'll hopefully be able to talk about it a
You
little
said that
bit
was
more.
June 11th?
June 11th at 6:30 PM, Bethlehem Township Community Center, Lehigh Valley EAC Network Summer Social and Roundtable Discussion. So hopefully we'll have some time to talk about it at that event as well. So it's in play. You know, we actually have a platform set up for the first time in 2 years that we're gonna use for a little bit. We'll see if it works.
Okay. And yeah, unfortunate, well, actually, it is kind of fortunate that that's a Wednesday and we meet on the Tuesday, the day before, we do.
Oh,
So that gives us a chance to remind ourselves
Yeah.
about this, so that maybe it'll increase our participation. There was enthusiasm in the online meeting that you organized, so I thought that was good from the other participants, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, Russ, was there
Yep, I went to the last workshop and I'll give you a preview of what happened. Basically, they're trying to make the best land use decisions to protect natural areas and farmlands and ensure efficient and cost-effective regional development plans, promote sustainable agricultural practices, use degraded sites such as abandoned mine lands, capped landfills, and other brownfields for solar energy generation or other best uses. They want to basically support increases in municipal open space funding initiatives, which we do. And they want to coordinate ordinance to conserve natural resources, includes meadows and buffer restorations, increase farmland acreage with coverage crops, increase buffer widths, and reduce fertilizer waste runoff. There's approximately 246,000 dwelling units in the region that rely on heat from natural gas, propane, fuel oil, or other fuels. Nearly 65% of the region's housing stock is now over 50 years old. These types of buildings are generally less energy efficient. Retrofits to upper grade residential energy efficiency has upfront costs, but can save money in the long run. They're supporting energy efficiency upgrades for residential buildings, LED lightings, new windows, special emphasis over residential units with those with fuel heating systems. Support energy upgrades for residential buildings. Also, if we don't take further action, emissions may increase by 9.3% by 2050, which is not a good thing. We're already in a hole with that. We're concerned about transportation. We want to cut back fuel consumption, try to go with other means of less contamination. Commercial energy usage in areas that they can do it with solar or other ways. Residential energy usage in homes, heating, cooling, lighting, appliances, efficient heating systems, solid waste, emissions from landfills, that's a big one. Waste decay, gas flaring, which we all know about. Agricultural, emissions from agricultural activities, fertilizer and machinery. Water and wastewater, treatment of potable water and wastewater in treatment plant operations. I don't know about you, but when I go past the Bethlehem waste plant, I've never smelled a waste plant that smells that bad anywhere. I've been around a few of them, but that one particularly is very odorous. I don't know why. There must be something, but I don't know what it is. Hazards, extreme heat, air pollution, increased precipitation and flooding risks, loss of native plants and animals, milder winters with less snow, disease spread by insects, Lyme disease, West Nile virus, wildfires, which we've had a lot of, reduced crop yields. And they basically have a GHG inventory, GHG reduction targets, emission projections, quantified GHG reduction measures, benefit analysis, key plan implements, milestones and metrics, and workforce planning analysis. So basically it's an ongoing process, which is going to take a long period of time.
Okay, good. You know, along those lines, with respect to climate change aspects, one of the sort of frightening things is just our lifestyles are increasing our electrical demands. And then the sort of ironic feedback loop with more warming requires more air conditioning. And so that increases the power demand significantly. And now AI has tremendous power demands.
Yes.
Let me think for a second here. I think it's Google. No, it's Microsoft. Microsoft, so I don't know if everyone knows this, but 3 Mile Island, there was the meltdown in '79 in one reactor. That took that offline. They took the other one offline in 2019. It is now going back online with Microsoft agreeing to buy all of the energy from that reactor for AI and cloud energy requirements. So this is a growing thing. Now, one thing that maybe if we get this consortium of EACs working together, perhaps we can try to generate some pressure, given that we are becoming the warehouse capital of the Northeast, apparently, to take some of that rooftop space and try to encourage solar panel arrays on them. And so looking into this with an individual who is involved in the there's a task force on sinkholes in the county that I'm part of. Really a working group. That word task force was used, but really not a task force, a working group. But anyway, I did learn that recently that apparently Google, Amazon, and a company called Cadco, which I don't know anything about, do have solar arrays on their rooftop. So that's an encouraging outcome because given the amount of acreage that these rooftops take up, it seems to me like low-hanging fruit to put solar arrays on them. And then this is, if anyone's familiar with Martin Guitar and their operating principles, no surprise that they have solar arrays on their large building. Yeah. So it is encouraging that some of these warehouses have solar arrays on them. Many of them don't. So I think that's something as the EAC groups get together and talk about commonalities, there might be an opportunity here to try to effectuate some positive change in that realm.
Well, I visited the Crayola factory. It's entirely solar panel.
Okay, Crayola as well?
Crayola is completely
Good.
solar powered, except for their boilers that they have to use.
Good to know.
But it's huge. It's the whole site. And they tried a wind turbine, and it was on a hill, and it didn't produce. So they went to solar panels. And the whole side of the mountain there is solar panels, and it produces all the power for the entire plant.
And whereas, in our township and in every EAC, I don't think any EAC really has power to do anything other than make recommendations to our respective council. But publicity is an important thing. And so if, as we start developing more communication networks, to simply champion companies that are doing this can exert some pressure on other companies to recognize the positive outcomes of being recognized in that way, and in and of itself turns into an incentive.
Well, I'm kind of recipient of that. I'm actually putting a solar array in my backyard, or attempting to, and the township's not exactly solar friendly. I mean, I've been working on this since February, and I still don't have the permit yet. Mm-hmm. So it's been a long, drawn-out process.
Right. And it turns out, I think, I've heard of and I'm aware of a number of individuals, literally nationwide, who find that this can be a struggle in some cases.
Yeah, besides even the solar arrays, there's green roofs that can be installed as well, where you can even have harvestable agricultural products on the rooftop. Right. So there's a lot of options out there, right? That it's not just this flat impervious surface.
Because that would cool it as well, cool the building.
But
okay, we have no public comment apparently. And so that brings us to review of minutes. And I know Laura Ray submitted some edits. I did later today to Carol. Does anybody else have corrections to the minutes of March or February? Okay, so then do we approve them as amended? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. So we do need to put on our agenda at some point the open space committee, subcommittee. That's just a little reminder, that's all.
Did you talk to Matt about it?
I sent him an email.
Me too.
It's a meeting with all of them, and
He
I
said,
forgot.
oh, thanks for
Okay.
mentioning.
Thank you. Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, but
So
a lot of
I need to ask you a
difficulties
question. You have a
with
hearing
it.
issue, right? Do you have a good, strong
Numerous
recommendation
roadblocks,
for an audiologist?
especially my neighbors. So it's unfortunate that people have to act that way, but that's the whole problem. I had to go through 2 attorneys just to get access to my own
Where are
property.
they located? Cedar Crest or-
Anxiety to not do anything.
Yeah.
And I hold myself up to.
But it is moving
Yeah.
on.
Please do, because I don't know if you noticed, but I struggle